It's March 19th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with the stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with the ruling day for President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment trial. The Constitutional Court may announce its ruling day to reinstate or remove President Yoon over his martial law declaration today to deliver the final verdict on Friday. If not, the ruling may even be delivered next week. The two leaders of the U.S. and Russia agreed on a partial 30-day ceasefire from attacks on energy infrastructure with Ukraine. Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky showed skepticism but did welcome the deal. The Trump administration says countries can avoid its April tariffs by cutting what it calls unfair trade barriers. It also says that on April 2nd, each country will receive a specific reciprocal tariff number that the U.S. believes represents its tariffs. It's still unclear when the Constitutional Court will deliver its ruling on President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment. If a date isn't announced by Wednesday, which is today, observers say it's likely the ruling won't be made this week. Our Oh Soo-young starts us off.
3 weeks and counting. The Constitutional Court has yet to announce when it will rule on President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment, meaning there may be no verdict this week. It took at most 2 weeks for former presidents Park Geun-hye and Roh Moo-yeon, but there has been no word from the court as of Wednesday, 22 days since Yoon's final trial hearing was held. The chance that the verdict will be delivered this Friday is looking slimmer, given that the court notified former leaders 2 to 3 days in advance of their respective ruling dates. The 8-member bench was reportedly convening even on Tuesday to deliberate on Yoon's impeachment, despite holding a trial hearing for Justice Minister Park Sung-jae. The longer-than-expected process has given rise to diverse speculations over what's holding up the justices. Some experts believe they have already decided unanimously to impeach President Yoon and are fine-tuning their positions to deliver an indisputable judgment, amid fears that the result may trigger extreme reactions from the public. The Seoul Western District Court's approval to extend a warrant to detain Yoon prompted violence from his supporters. Some believe the bench may be divided ideologically and are struggling to align their views, given how an earlier impeachment case of Korea Communications Commission Chair Lee Jin-suk was dismissed, as the justices' opinions were split evenly in line with their political orientations. In any case, the justices are facing growing calls to make a swift decision, as Yoon's prolonged suspension from office hinders effective governance of the nation. The bench is also under significant political pressure. Those supporting Yoon's impeachment wish to quickly trigger a snap presidential election, which polls show would largely favour opposition Democratic Party leader Lee Jae-myung. Meanwhile, conservatives, including Yoon's supporters, are calling for the case to be dismissed, or for the court to deliver a ruling after Lee Jae-myung's own verdict on one of his 5 criminal cases next Tuesday. If at least 6 justices agree to uphold the presidential impeachment, Yoon will be removed from office immediately, triggering an early election that must be held within 60 days. If at least 3 are against impeachment, the president will resume his duties. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
So if the court doesn't declare a ruling date today, the final verdict may even be pushed to next week. We discussed this more with Professor Song Se-ryun this morning. Welcome back, Professor Song.
Good morning.
So aren't we expecting the court to announce the ruling day today, considering the announcement comes, at least 2 to 3 days before the ruling day?
I think it is imminent, but whether it be today, nobody's sure about that. I mean, the court has 180 days to finish the impeachment, so they have the time theoretically until the mid-June. But of course, the proceeding was largely over, testimony part, in February 25th. So it's going on to about a month. So given that other impeachment proceedings ended within 2 weeks, 2 weeks or 3 weeks would have been a good barometer. But I think the complexities and other considerations are making it the court very cautious about this schedule. But I think that end of March, probably if we go into the early part of April, probably that would be a very, very late one for this proceeding, because in the middle of the April, two justices come off the bench. So regardless of 180 days mark, I think it is a realistic, very tight deadline when it gets to the April. So I would think that this week, I think that more realistically next week would be the decision day.
Indeed. Well, many are expecting that Friday will be the big day. The question is, why Friday morning? Many say Friday morning. Why ahead of the weekend?
Well, Friday is conventionally a good day to announce it because it works as a buffer. You have the weekend. The public may have the time to let off their steams, but more practically, you have a market consideration. If you announced a decision in the morning of the Friday, then the market can react to it and have a little bit of buffer over the weekend. So it gets easier to digest whatever the decision is. But of course, this is just a convention or convenience. And it's a good idea to do it on Friday, but it's not a mandate. So the court, if they have more to discuss, more to deliberate, they'll spend their time.
Well, you mentioned that the justices are being very careful and cautious at the moment. But what do you think the justices are contemplating at this point of the progress? Or do you think they're trying to make unilateral votes, or what to include their final statements? What's on their mind?
Well, their question before them is whether to keep the job for President Yoon as a president or not. And there are procedural issues and the substantive issues and the testimonies that they have to consider because they are the fact finder. So there are numerous considerations they have. I think the biggest one is whether the elements for the constitutional requirement for the martial law is met, and second part is whether they are serious enough to strip them off the position. I think that the unanimous vote consideration, I think it is important because the court, although they're not required to consider political considerations, but the Constitutional Court, of course, has to think about the decisions they make, and probably that'll transpire some political schedules if there is a decision to strip them off the presidency. Then there has to be an election in 60 days. So they are mindful of the consequences of their decision. But I think that the most important thing they will focus on at this point is whether the decision is constitutionally sound and convincing to the people. And I think they're extra cautious about what kind of decision and what wordings, verbiage they will use to make that decision.
Well, it's been a while since we heard from President Yoon himself. He's been remaining silent ever since his release from custody. He's been maintaining very low-profile posture. But why do you think he's being so quiet, and why is the legal team saying that it won't release a statement until the ruling?
I think that's a wise thing to do as somebody who's waiting for the decision of the court. I wouldn't be surprised if not only himself, but he gave a sort of a mum order to the people around him, to the defensive team as well, because you want to appear humble and respect the court's decision. I mean, what he says or what things that his people would say might instigate his supporters or can be misconstrued as somebody who's not really respecting the court's decisions. So he doesn't want to get into any kind of misunderstanding at this point, and probably he will keep silent until the decision is made.
maybe keeping a low profile, maybe the least and best that Yoon can do at this point. Now, Professor Song, before I let you go, we should probably expect the ruling for Prime Minister Han Duck-soo's impeachment to come after the ruling for President Yoon, right?
Well, that's what people expect at this point, but I think there are enough variables because their decision would affect, or the decision, what comes first would affect the other in a way the political process is arranged. Remember, the presidential impeachment is more important than the Mr. Han's ministerial decision at this point. But I think that if the Prime Minister Han's decision comes first, I think that it might indicate, or people will construe it as an indication that the certain decision will be made for President Yoon. But at this point, I think the prudent thing to assume is that more important agenda is taken care of first, and that would be the president's impeachment motion.
All right, Professor Song, thank you so much for your time and your insights. As always, we appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
The U.S. and Russia have made a partial deal for Russia and Ukraine to stop attacking energy and infrastructure facilities. For now, our Choi Soo-hyung has the latest.
U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin have agreed on a limited ceasefire and energy and infrastructure targets in Russia and Ukraine. On Tuesday local time, the White House announced that in a lengthy phone call between both parties, Russia agreed to halt attacks on energy and infrastructure facilities for 30 days. The Kremlin stated that Putin had immediately ordered a halt to attack on these sites. During the 3-year conflict between Russia and Ukraine, attacks on these sites caused immense damage. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky also stated that he supports Trump's proposal.
We support all steps towards ending the war. We will give support, but in order to support something, we need to understand what specifically it is.
He expressed his willingness to speak with Trump at any time to hear the details on the phone talks with Putin. He also stated that Ukraine cannot be excluded from future discussions on the details of the ceasefire. However, a full ceasefire still seems some way off. Recently, Putin rejected Trump's proposal for a 30-day full ceasefire, citing concerns such as Ukraine's potential rearmament. During the call, Putin also insisted that foreign military and intelligence assistance to Ukraine should be halted. Europe welcomed the agreement between Trump and Putin, but stressed that Ukraine's position must be taken into account. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and French President Emmanuel Macron stated in a press conference on Tuesday that Ukraine must be involved in the negotiations to achieve a just peace for Ukraine. Meanwhile, Moscow said that Russia and Ukraine are set to exchange 175 prisoners of war each on Wednesday. Choi Soo-hyung, Arirang News.
Now, according to U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, some reciprocal tariffs may be avoided under a pre-negotiated deal or negotiations after April 2nd. Our Lee Seung-jae tells us more.
U.S. President Donald Trump said he would be announcing a detailed plan on the reciprocal tariffs on U.S. imports by April 2nd. With the deadline looming, the Trump administration is showing some flexibility with its tariff policies. Speaking to Fox News on Tuesday, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent expressed optimism that come April 2nd, some of the tariffs may not go into effect if a deal is pre-negotiated or if countries look to negotiate after April 2nd. Emphasizing that the U.S. is only in pursuit of fair and reciprocal trade, Bessent said that countries that stop trade practices that the U.S. deems unfair could avoid reciprocal tariffs. Such practices include non-tariff barriers, currency manipulation, unfair funding, and labor suppression. Meanwhile, Bessent said that come April 2nd, each country will receive a specific reciprocal tariff number deemed fair by the U.S. He added that the tariff calculation would be determined by the U.S. Trade Representative and the U.S. Commerce Department. The U.S. Treasury Secretary said that he has not seen any figures yet, as they are still being calculated. While Besant believes reciprocal tariffs could lead to a win-win situation for everyone, they have raised concerns here in South Korea, with trade officials keen to avoid new U.S. tariffs. Seoul fears that with South Korea's trade surplus with the U.S. reaching over $55 billion last year, it could be a major target for the Trump administration. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And Washington apparently continues to sending a message to its trading partners ahead of the April tariffs. Now this time, identifying Korea as a major trade deficit country. Our Shin Ha-young explains.
With about 2 weeks until the announcement of reciprocal tariff plans, a top economic aide to U.S. President Donald Trump mentioned South Korea as a major trade deficit country. U.S. National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett told CNBC on Monday that trade deficits with Europe, China, and South Korea have persisted for years, claiming the deficits are attributable to the country's high tariffs and non-tariff trade barriers. He added that if U.S. trading partners immediately lower all barriers, the negotiations will be over. Since South Korea and the U.S. have a free trade agreement that removes tariffs on most items, Hassett's statement is raising expectations of increased pressure on South Korea to lower non-tariff trade barriers.
The Trump administration is focused on fixing trade imbalances and seems to be taking a one-on-one approach with countries that have large trade deficits. For South Korea, this could mean either imposing tariffs to reduce imports or negotiating to lower barriers, so South Korea can import more from the U.S.
The expert from the Korea Institute for International Economic Policy emphasized the need for South Korea to review its contributions to the U.S. and assess potential U.S. demands on non-tariff trade barriers.
We need to review our contributions to the U.S. and potential demands from the U.S. on non-tariff trade barriers. However, with many uncertainties, it's too early for negotiations.
Meanwhile, during the interview with CNBC, Hassett said there will be some uncertainty between now and April 2nd, referring to the date Trump is set to unveil his reciprocal tariff plans. His comments come as market analysts and business leaders have criticized the sweeping tariff announcements, which have led to volatility in world markets. However, Hassett defended Trump's tariffs against Mexico, Canada, and China, calling them very positive developments, adding things will clear up after April 2nd. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
International credit rating agency Fitch has revised down its growth outlook for the U.S. Due to the risk of a global trade war. In its economic outlook report released on Tuesday, it revised down its growth forecast from 2.1% to 1.7%. It also lowered its outlook for 2026 from 1.7% to 1.5%. The agency explained the potential global trade war due to the tariff policy of the current U.S. administration is expected to slow U.S. and global growth while increasing inflation in the U.S. It also revised down the 2025 global economic growth forecast from 2.6% to 2.3%. The top diplomats of South Korea, Japan, and China are to hold talks this week over in Tokyo. Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yeol will have a three-way meeting with his Japanese counterpart Takeshi Iwaya and Chinese counterpart Wang Yi on Saturday. Now, the talks come for the first time in more than a year since November 2023. The three sides are to assess the progress of trilateral cooperation since their leaders summit that took place in May last year and exchange views on regional and international issues. Joe is to hold one-on-one talks with his Japanese and Chinese counterparts, as well as a key agenda about preparations for the 60th anniversary of the normalization of Seoul-Tokyo ties with Iwaya and the APEC summit with Wang. Korean historical art treasures are being showcased at Germany's 400-year-old Dresden Royal Palace. According to the National Museum of Korea on Tuesday, this large-scale exhibition, the first of its kind in Germany in 25 years, is being held in a collaboration with the Dresden State Art Collections. Among the highlights is one of the famous gold crowns from the Silla Kingdom, often referred to as the City of Gold, dating back around 1,500 years. The exhibition, which opened on Saturday, will run until August and features over 300 Korean artifacts, including items from the Iganhee collection.
Good morning, I'm Choi Ji-hee, and this is The World Now. Israel resumed extensive airstrikes across Gaza on Tuesday, killing over 400 Palestinians, injuring hundreds, and shattering the already fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the airstrikes are just the beginning and part of a broader strategy to dismantle Hamas and secure the release of Israeli hostages. He emphasized that future negotiations would proceed under fire, indicating a readiness to continue military operations. While both Israel and the United States blame the renewed hostilities on Hamas, the international community has widely condemned the renewed violence. The United Nations has expressed deep concern over the escalating humanitarian crisis, and several countries, including Egypt and France, have called for an immediate halt in hostilities. The European Union has unveiled a plan to bolster its defense capabilities by 2030, aiming to enhance military autonomy and reduce reliance on external allies. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced on Tuesday in Copenhagen the EU's initiative to rearm itself by 2030, targeting a significant enhancement of the bloc's defense infrastructure. The strategy aims to establish a credible deterrent in response to evolving geopolitical threats, notably the ongoing conflict in Ukraine and uncertainties regarding U.S. military support. The Readiness 2030 strategy, which will be announced on Wednesday local time, comprises several key components, including fiscal flexibility, defense loans, and infrastructure development. The proposal also includes the creation of a European military sales mechanism to streamline collective arms procurement across the EU and support arms manufacturers. Meanwhile, in Germany, the parliament has approved a historic spending package aimed at revitalizing the economy and bolstering defense capabilities. The legislation, championed by incoming Chancellor Friedrich Merz, secured a two-thirds majority in the parliament. Key components of the package include a $545 billion fund allocated over 12 years for infrastructure modernization and provisions for unlimited defense spending, facilitated by constitutional amendments easing strict debt regulations. The bill now awaits approval from Germany's upper house to become law. The International Olympic Committee commenced its 144th session in ancient Olympia, Greece, on Tuesday local time. The session holds particular significance as it comes just before the election of a new IOC president set to take place on March 20th. 7 candidates are contending for the presidency, including prominent figures such as the current IOC vice president and an Olympic swimming champion who is Zimbabwe's current sports minister. Outgoing President Thomas Bach, who has led the IOC since 2013, addressed the assembly at the Olympic Academy, emphasizing the session's role in honoring the organization's heritage and future.
The spring snow wonderland melted away fairly quickly yesterday, but the spring cold is sticking around through today. This morning was off to an even colder start than yesterday. Many inner areas saw sub-zero temperatures, with Taegwallyeong seeing a low near minus 20 degrees Celsius. And those in the east of Gangwon-do in particular need to be extra careful on icy roads and sidewalks. Despite the colder temperatures, the ultrafine dust level will remain high high in the capital region and Chungcheongdo and Gyeongsang-Namdo provinces during the morning. But we'll have plenty of sunshine with afternoon highs similar to yesterday, topping out at 7 degrees here in Seoul, Daegu, and Gwangju, make it to 9 degrees Celsius. But a strong wind will make it feel colder. But the cold spell will ease from tomorrow afternoon with temperatures returning to season norms. It's going to feel like mid-April over the weekend and into early next week under clear skies. But for today, stay warm and take care. Many are coming down with a cold these days.
That wraps up our morning edition of Arirang News. We'll be back with more stories making the headlines at 5 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.
How to survive in Korea. One room. So, you're surviving in Korea? If you've signed a contract for a one room, obviously you're a pro. But the real deal begins now. Step 1. Housewarming. No need to buy toilet paper, diffusers or hand soap. You'll get them soon enough as housewarming gifts. And some are bound to pile up. There's nothing better to serve your guests than milpaeyu nabe. If you have Korean friends coming over, don't forget the extra garlic. Step 2. Garbage disposal. With great power comes great responsibility. You've had a good time, so let's get to work. It might be tempting to sweep everything into a trash can, but you have to separate your garbage. Not bothered? Beware that negligence is punished with a fine or public humiliation. Step 3. Drying rack. You're excited to live alone in Korea, but the fate of these items, hanger, storage, or a hanger. Go get fresh coffee outside. Jogging doesn't cost anything, and nothing beats instant rice. But keep one item around so that you don't get too lonely. Step 4. Pros of living alone. No mum. Cons of living alone. No mum. A new towel doesn't magically appear. You have to do the laundry regularly. If anyone gives a towel as a souvenir, take it. Get rid of mold immediately. Don't be lazy with the vacuum cleaner. Housework is an endless affair. Overwhelmed? Give your mum a call and thank her for everything she's done. Did you survive in your one room? Wait, you have an unwanted visitor. Call someone you fancy. Could be the right person for the job.
Hi, Chef Ryan here. Today we're going to make kimbap, which is a healthy and delicious alternative to modern fast food.
type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bring news just for you. It's Wednesday, March 19th here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin, and you're watching News Generation. Joining us this Wednesday is Lee Won-bin.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Park Yoon.
Always good to be here.
Happy Wednesday. Now both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. As usual, we're going to begin with our keyword news. Our keyword for this Wednesday is visa. The number of E9 non-professional employment visa holders in South Korea has now exceeded 300,000. According to newly released data from Statistics Korea, there were 303,000 E9 visa holders as of 2024. And among them, 80% were employed in the mining and manufacturing industries, followed by the agriculture, forestry, and fishery sectors, and then the construction sector. So, Kyun, I want to ask you, could you start us off by explaining what the E9 visa is and who qualifies to get this visa?
Sure. So the E9 visa is a work visa issued by the South Korean government to foreign workers who are employed in the manual labor or unskilled job sectors. And the applicants must meet the following requirements. One, being from one of the 16 countries, including China, Vietnam, and Thailand. Two, typically between ages 18 and 39. Three, pass a medical examination and have no criminal records. Four, pass EPS and topic tests that Won-bin will further explain a bit later. And five, be selected through the employment permit system, commonly known as EPS. And they also cannot apply directly, but must go through the government-approved process in their home countries. So a lot of steps to take, but once they come to Korea, I saw statistics showing that they're very satisfied with the type of work they're doing, and the level of complaint is quite low. So once they pass all these requirements, they're going to start a very happy new life in Korea.
Right, and I think that this leads us to our next question. So, 80% of these visa holders are currently working in the mining and manufacturing industry. So I want to ask you, what factors do you think are driving these workers in these specific sectors?
One of the big reasons would definitely be language barriers. According to my research, you need to take the EPS topic, a Korean proficiency test, to get the E9 visa, like Kyun said. Now, to give further explanation, this test is a test to validate the Korean skill of the test taker. But keep in mind that it's meant for entry-level, basic-level Korean communication, nothing sophisticated or super advanced. Therefore, foreigners with an E9 visa can communicate in Korean, but not comfortably. In other words, tasks or positions that require lots of communication may be unsuitable for them. Therefore, instead of jobs with a lot of verbal communication, jobs that are physically demanding might be an attractive option. And on top of that, another thing to note is that according to multiple press and media, Korean MZ generations tend to avoid jobs that includes demanding physical labor, which leaves a lot of unsupplied demand for those type of positions.
All right, and that was our keyword news for this Wednesday. So we're now going to move on to our main discussion of the day. Wednesday is when we tap into the latest lifestyle trends among young people. Take a look at the screen to find out more.
Are you a 3 squeal meals a day kind of person, or do you prefer small bites? Traditionally in Korea, breakfast, lunch, and dinner have been viewed as sacred sit-down meals. But these days, more people are swapping them out for snackable alternatives.
So we want to start off our show by asking our panelists, where do you stand? Are you for a full plate or a bite-sized snack for your meal?
I used to have full plates back in the day when I was young, where my mom used to prepare 3 meals a day, like from breakfast, pack me lunch, and come home, have a really hearty dinner. But ever since moving out and living with my brother, having 3 meals a day seems, a difficult thing to do.
It's a mission.
It's a mission, and usually I would have like at least 2. Like 3 would be like a lot during the day. And in terms of breakfast, I'll have a lot of. I wouldn't have like a full meal for breakfast. It would be very light, very quick, easy on the go. So it keeps me really eager and waiting for lunchtime. And when I do have lunch, I like to have like full hearty meals, but it really depends who I eat with, because we're going to have like clashing preferences.
Right.
And especially when you eat alone, you wouldn't really go to like a fancy restaurant to have a well-balanced meal. So usually I really understand today's topic, where people just tend to have like bite-sized snacks on the go, because they don't have the time, and of course, eating alone is not a common thing here in Korea compared to like other countries, but it is becoming much more common as we see in different restaurants. But yeah, so I think for me, in one day I'll have one full meal, probably like 2 snacks.
So maximum 2 meals, but
Maximum
normally
2 meals.
one full?
But not 3.
Not 3, okay. What about you, Wonbin?
Well, just like Yoon said, I can relate to this topic a lot as well because I myself eat snacks a lot compared to full meals. And it's a combination of multiple reasons, but to mention one, the biggest reason would definitely be time. Like Yoon said, it's rare for me to have breakfast as I live alone. It's very difficult to prepare when
in the early morning.
Yeah, like when you have your morning hair, like there's so much things to take care of. And if I do eat breakfast, it would be my trusty protein cereal. Yes. And lunch often stays light too. Something like samgakgimbap, which is a triangle Korean rice roll with fillings in it, or again, protein shakes. Also, as I'm usually in the middle of work around that time. And if I am lucky, I would have a meal with someone, but that's only when I have appointments. However, Kyun said that he tries to get one full meal at least, and that's similar for me. I do try to get all my nutrients in at dinner. I usually eat dinner pretty late, around 10 p.m. My mom's not gonna like this, but yeah, which is after work. And basically that's dinner is the only time where I can comfortably eat without checking the clock or the time. So that's when I get all the long overdue flavors and proteins for the day. So basically, usually snacks or light breakfast and lunch, and one heavy late dinner.
So you guys both include snacks, right, in your daily diet?
So what about you, Eugene?
I have 3 full meals a day because I'm living with my parents' mom. Thank you, Mom.
Wow.
But yeah, I think I tend to have snacks too as I work throughout the day. So all the 3 include snacks in our daily diet, and this shift in eating habits is being called snackification, where snacks are no longer just munchies between meals, but the main event. So Kyun, I want to ask you, what exactly qualifies as a snack these days, and how big of a trend are we talking about right now?
So to answer your first question, a snack can refer to nuts, ice creams, chocolates, candies, jellies, or even protein bars that could be considered a bit healthier. Answering your second question, a recent data released by Euromonitor International, an independent provider of consumer insights, shows that between the years 2023 and 2024, 13% of adult consumers in South Korea ate their meals as a form of snackification. That's a hard one to pronounce.
It is.
This means that 1 out of 8 Korean adults would have snacks rather than having what we call a proper meal that consists of, I guess, more natural ingredients and what we consider as like a traditional meal where we just sit down for a long time and to enjoy the full meal. Yeah.
Definitely, and this is quite interesting because Korea has long placed high value on hearty meals because we even have a term called 밥심, meaning the strength you get from a proper meal. So I also want to ask you, Kyun, are more Koreans choosing to snack throughout the day rather than sit down for traditional meals? How big is it in Korea as well?
So just to give you an interesting example, I'd like to share with our viewers as well. There was a TV reality program called 3 Meals a Day, or 삼십세끼 in Korean, which first started airing in 2014. So it's been almost like
11 years ago.
11 years. And I actually remember watching it when it first came out. And this caught the attention of many young viewers, obviously, including myself. And what they do is basically these 2 celebrities, male celebrities, Cha Seung-won and Yoo Hae-jin, they started. So what they do is they go to this like the outskirts or like country areas or even small islands, and they would just cook 3 meals a day. That's all they did throughout the whole day, using natural ingredients and recipes. And the reason why so many young people actually really enjoyed this show was because, ironically, they didn't have the time to cook 3 meals a day, let alone even 2. So they had this sense of vicarious satisfaction just by watching this program. So this clearly illustrates that young people's obviously lack of time and I guess being too busy with their everyday lives really made them opt for quicker, easier, faster options of meals in the form of snacks rather than having these traditional meals. So this is, I guess, a good example of showing how young Koreans, I guess, preference for having snacks over proper traditional meals.
Right, and this show once again started 11 years ago, which kind of shows that snackification has been on the rise gradually in Korea. Then I also want to ask you, are you witnessing these shift in eating habits as well?
Yes, I am as well. I completely agree with Ki-hoon. To most young people in their 20s and 30s, time is always the problem. Excuse me. And it's actually quite ironic to see people skipping meals because of work nowadays.
Right.
Because in Korean, this is for the viewers, there is a phrase that says 다 먹고 살자고 하는 건데, which translates to, at the end, it's all to eat and live, meaning leave some room in your life to enjoy basic things, such as eating meals. Now, going back to the topic, in defense of snackification, Korea's snacks are actually closer to a meal. Well, compared to North America, where chips and candies or gummies, like Yoon mentioned, are the keywords for snacks, Korea actually has a wide range of snacks that are made as a meal replacement. They use the same, or at least a simplified version of ingredients that goes into proper meals, such as my favorite 삼각김밥, triangle rice rolls with fillings. Again, sorry, mom. And kimbap, which is rice roll with vegetables and meat, and 도시락, which is basically a lunchbox that has rice. And not to mention the cup noodles, which adds a warmth to our meal. And I think warmth in your meal is like considered a luxury in the realm of snacks. While young generations in Korea do rely on snacks a lot, thanks to these, should I say, relatively healthy options that we have in Korea, I think the worries are partially mitigated.
And I think that we're seeing more of these filling snacks because snackification has become a trend. So the industry is responding to a growing demand. All right, so far we've taken a look at the situation in Korea. Then what other countries have embraced the idea of replacing snacks with meals?
Well, at least we're not alone in this snackification. It's a global trend. And according to Euromonitor International, various countries from different continents are eating snacks as an alternative selection from traditional meals. Let's take a look at the statistics. Now, the statistics of countries with the highest rate of snacks as meal replacement shows that India has the highest replacement rate at 18%, followed by the US at 17%. Vietnam and Thailand tied third at 14%. UK and Brazil tied fourth at 13%. And for reference, Korea was at 13% as well. And actually, I gotta say, after looking at the stats, I'm quite intrigued by the fact that India actually came in first instead of US or other countries. And I never knew that they were like such leading country in the realm of snacks. So I really wish we had someone to talk to or ask like what they actually eat and how the situation is in India.
Well, this is kind of a spoiler alert, but we'll soon connect with a young person from India to talk about snackification in that country. But before we get to that, to find out what our viewers think, we first ran a poll on the Arirang News YouTube channel. So here's how our viewers weighed in on snackification. 56% answered that they have 2 full meals and snacks, followed by 24% who answered that they have 3 meals, and 20% opting for 1 full meal and snacks. And we're now gonna take a look at some of their responses. Our first response for Wednesday is Eddie Lee 5909. Either 2 full meals or 1 meal plus snacks. There simply isn't enough time for a third meal, so I eat more during each meal. Roddy Russell Jr. 93 says, I only eat when I'm hungry. Most days, it's 1 big meal a day. Jia Weike 3518 says, unless you are working in some kind of hard labor, 2 meals plus snacks is all you really need to avoid becoming obese. Oh, must enjoy fresh chicken and bananas to help with digestion. So, as we mentioned previously in our episode today, one country leading the snackification revolution is India. So, when we come back, we'll be joined by a Gen Z from India to share more on today's topic. Stay with us.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search our channel Arirang News. Click Community and leave a comment down below. Make a new type of news with us.
We're pleased to welcome Kale Bageshri, an Indian Gen Z, to our show today. She is currently a graduate student studying at Dongseol University in Busan. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Happy Wednesday.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
Happy Wednesday.
So we first want to ask you, according to the data we discussed earlier at the top of our broadcast, India ranked at the top when it comes to embracing snackification. So are you also seeing this trend firsthand yourself?
Oh, yes, I'm seeing this happen in my everyday life. And without even me realizing it, I think I became a part of this trend, and we did not even know like there is a word for it, but we are following it. Me myself have replaced a full meal with snacks so many times because we have less time and we are running late, and we depend on something easy to eat like instant noodles or chips. And I've seen even my friends around me picking up snacks instead of full meal because they are busy with their studies and the hectic lifestyle.
All right, well, thank you for joining us today. And as we had our conversation earlier within our panels, I really wanted to ask you that what are some of the most popular snacks in India? And are there any unique Indian snacks that you'd love to introduce to our viewers and me?
As you know, India is a huge country and we have so many different cultures and traditions. And with every region you go, you'll find a different kind of snacks. So I would recommend you travel whole India and try different snacks, its own speciality. To mention a few, I would like to mention a few popular like samosas. It is also triangle like kimbap, but it is deep fried, and inside we have potato fillings, which are spicy potatoes. And then we have vada pav, which is bread and inside potato and spicy. So you'll find one thing common is most of the Indian snacks are spicy and we use a lot of potatoes. So, and we also have bhajis or pakoras, which is similar to Korea's bhajon, like similar but Indian style. And one unique speciality that I would like to recommend is pani puri. It is like a puri, a ball kind of made with milgaru, like flour. We put inside potatoes, chickpeas, and spices and dip in water. The water is actually not just simple water, but spicy and tangy water. So these combined together when we eat it, it's a blast of flavors. It's spicy, it's a little bit sweet, it's tangy. So I would recommend everyone should try it at least once when you visit India.
Wow, they sound very delicious and really want to try those Indian snacks. So what do you think is the main driver behind this shift in eating habits?
I think, in my opinion, the main driver could be our fast-paced living, our lifestyle, how we are moving about. Like, if we see, even in India, like Korean culture, the palli culture, even in India, we have this culture where everything is so quick, especially in urban areas and big cities. And our generation, like millennials and Gen Z, is moving to bigger cities for studies and for working. And when we are moving and we are alone and we don't have our mother who's cooking us meals, so we are depending on something which is easy, convenient, and doesn't take much time. And we are full because at the end we are just depending that we should not be hungry. So anything that is filling our stomach, we are going with it. So the fast-paced lifestyle is the main cause for the changing eating habits, I think.
All right, Kali Bagayshri, an Indian Gen Z, a graduate student currently studying Korea. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was lovely talking to you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you.
All right, so besides what our guest just mentioned, which is fast-paced or fast-moving society kind of accelerating the snackification trend, what other factors do you think are at play?
I definitely echo with what she just said, but I think a lot of people chasing cost-effective lifestyles and preferring convenience, and of course the change in living environment, fast-paced environment, really all play a big factor in choosing snacks over a meal. And also, I also think that there are so many available snacks out there that there's so many to choose from compared to the past. That's why I guess people might just choose to have snacks over a meal because obviously not only does it save time, but because they have so many options available, and of course it's much more affordable than actually having a proper meal. So I do understand why a lot of young people have gone to this trend of, you know, taking the easier choice. But at the end of the day, you have to look into your health as well.
Right.
All these snacks, they don't really match up to all the nutrition that you need on a daily basis. So I think knowing to balance out your diet is very important at the end of the day.
Definitely. And one thing I think you can elaborate us more on the affordability side.
Yes. Inflation is the reason. Inflation, inflation, and inflation. Everything is so expensive nowadays, including a nice, warm, normal meal. And this naturally makes just people to lean towards the more affordable options to fill their stomach. Now, to give some stats, according to Statistics Korea, the average grocery expenses of a household went up from 660,000 Korean won, which is approximately $450 in 2019, to 840,000 Korean won, which is again about $600 in last year, which is about a 30% increase in the past 5 years. And on top of that, there's a concept called greedflation that also plays a role here. This explains the situation where companies increase the prices of the products beyond the increased manufacturing cost in order to yield higher profit. Now, to be fair, there are a few defenses to this greedflation for the companies. One of them being that companies cannot regularly increase the price in small increments, and with that, whenever they have an excuse to increase the price, they would basically make up for the lost margin that they cannot increase the price at the past. And regardless of the causes, food is costing more than ever, and therefore it's incentivizing people to seek for a cheaper alternative.
You see, so a lot of factors weighing in. But at the end of the day, snackification is a sign of changing consumer needs because people want meals that are affordable, easy to eat on the go, and still delicious. So ending our show today, do you have any snack or meal recommendations for those looking for quick, budget-friendly, yet satisfying bites?
In terms of breakfast, I would add anything I can to a large bowl of Greek yogurt.
Oh.
So you can add fruit, you can add even vegetables, granola, walnuts, nuts, whatever, even chocolate. And I just top it off with honey to get that sweet ending taste. It's healthy, it's quick. And I think for breakfast, people always wonder, what should I have for breakfast? Should I skip it? Instead of skipping it, try this Kihoon style
Greek yogurt,
Korean yogurt, Kihoon yogurt. I don't know. Try it once. It's delicious.
Okay,
It's very filling as well.
Okay, thank you for that recommendation. What about you, Wonbin?
Well, for our viewers, in Korea has actually a lot of snacks, tasty snacks that have a traditional Korean touch to it.
K-snacks.
Yes, K-snacks. A few examples here. I recommend 쌀과자, which is a crispy bite-sized snack made of rice, and 김부각 as well, which is another snack made with seaweed. Now, keep in mind the second one, 김부각, actually comes in 2 flavors. They have the sweet variation and the salty variation as well. So please choose accordingly to your taste. And moving on to my meals, Kihoon likes to Greek yogurt, but I like to focus a little bit more on my protein. So I like to stick to my good old chicken. So excellent price, excellent taste, and most importantly, an excellent source of protein. You can order them in bulk for a ridiculously cheap price in Korea. And for the seasoning, this is where the magic happens. Get onion powder, garlic powder, salt and pepper, and throw them into air fryer for 20 minutes. Once you portionize them, so you have to first order them in bulk, portionize them, and then if you put them in the air fryer for 20 minutes with the seasonings, you get a nice, delicious, warm meal. So that is my recommendation for you guys and the viewers.
Sounds so good. We should definitely try that out. And that's all we have for this episode of News Generation, but we will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time. Special thanks to Wonbin.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. And Park Ki-yoon.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And to our viewers, thank you for spending time with us, and we'll see you tomorrow on Thursday. We are News Generation.
How to survive in Korea. Weddings. Step 0. Attire. As a guest, dress formal to business